I reached a line that I never thought, that is called, I now call Until Death Do Us Apart.
You know, when during marriage, I'm married, so I've said my vows.
Yes.
Do you, Richie, take to be able to say, repeat these words? And we say till death do us part, but I don't think I've ever thought about it like when I've heard you say that.
Yeah. So for me, from that point onwards, it started dawning on me a few facts. Number one, I was like, wow, I had actually reached this place called Until Death Do Us Apart, which I had never thought there was a beyond. And suddenly, there was a beyond. Secondly, I was like, wow. It dawned on me. I remember one of my sons asking me, Dad, are you now a widower? And I was like, wow, that's quite some branding. And I said, yeah. And my other son was saying, please don't call my dad a widower. No, that's not nice to call my dad a widower, I said, real. And it dawned on me, you know what? I'm a single dad with 5 kids.
Yeah. 5 kids.
I'm a single dad with 5 plus the fifth one being a brand new. Brand new child. And, we laid her to rest on 12th of July, which is exactly 1 month after her birthday. Remember, she got sick on her birthday. So amazing, Zoe was born on her birthday. Which
is not coincidental. There's nothing like that in God's world.
Yeah. So,
can I ask you a question? How did you break this? So now I'm beginning to think about the people who are in this situation and people who will go through this situation. How did you break this news to your children?
So I came home. My best man was driving me. This is one thing I've learned. Everybody I've spoken to who's been through this season, somehow the best man is involved. So choose your best man carefully. They have real responsibilities. So my best man drove me home, took a shower, and just trying to contemplate what had just happened. And I was faced with a big task of breaking the news to my children. My son, who was about to celebrate his birthday on 16th of July, had asked me at the end of June, will Mom be here on my birthday? And I said, given what I've seen, she will be here on your birthday. I said that both also on my faith.
Yes.
So now I have to tell him that the mother will not be here on his birthday, and it is a permanent situation.
Yeah.
So I called them to a bedroom, and all of them, and I told them, guys, you know what? Today, Mom's heart stopped. And they asked me, what does that mean? I said, it means that Mom is no longer living, as in she's gone to heaven, and she will not come back home again.
Yeah.
And I remember my son, starting my firstborn, and he just did like this on the bed and just threw himself on the bed and started crying. My second-born son, the same thing, and he started crying. And I also started crying. We were all crying. My third-born son was kind of not crying, but he was distracting himself with a toy or something.
How old is your third-born son?
6.5. He understood everything. Now when I talk to him, he understood everything. And from there, questions started. My second-born son was like, there were so many things that I wanted to teach Mom. I asked him what. He said, I had promised mom to teach her how to play piano. Now I will never have this. You know, I mean, mom will never kiss me again. You know, questions after questions were coming, you know. And my firstborn son, Emmanuel, was like, you know, Dad, I mean, I only had 9 years with my mom. I didn't even see my 10th birthday with my mom. I mean, I'm so sad. So it was just question. Now the fourth born, Tehila, the concept of heart beating is not, or someone has died, is not clear.
How old is she?
She's gonna be 3 this month.
Yeah.
I told her, you know what, Mama's gone to heaven, and she's not coming. Her understanding was going to heaven is that, you know, is a place you visit. You know? But we've gone through a process, so there was a lot of weeping, crying, talking. I moved all of them to our bedroom so that we could grieve together. It was very clear everybody was grieving, and I made it very intentional that I was not going to grieve in private. I was going to grieve openly to them because I needed them to also grieve and not hide it.
So you've cried in front of them?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yes. And from there, I mean, planning for the funeral. It's just a very brutal world that you lose somebody and you immediately have to start planning for their burial. I mean, it's just too much work for someone who has taken such a hit. So thankfully, you know, we've had an amazing support, friends, family.
Yep.
I mean, the body of Christ just rose, and we lacked nothing. You know, we had
the medical bills was like what?
We had an 11 million plus bill to pay, plus funeral. Our medical insurance was not sufficient because they said it was a maternity thing and not inpatient. So maternity is 300K.
Like that, first of all, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean,
and Pius, I know you to do your due diligence before getting any medical cover.
I mean, you're here, so this is not the time to do those things.
Yes.
We are where we are. And fighting with an insurance company, first of all, is not one of my fights.
This is not the time to do. You don't even have that energy.
I don't have the energy. Friends and family and colleagues, they did their best. They topped up a little bit. It got to about $1 million, but we had to find the rest of the money from somewhere, and it needed to be done within 10 days. So we had 10 days to raise 11 million plus, and some of my friends were very burdened that they needed, this situation should not leave as a family worse off. So they asked for my permission. Can they start a fundraising? And I said, you know what, it's okay. If it was about me, I would probably have done it differently, but you accept God's provision at that point in time. That's one thing that I've always been a giver. And here I was now, people wanted to give me. And I was like, okay, fine, you know, let me open the door for their blessings too. And people went out, and amazingly, friends and family were able to raise the entire budget. And
for the funeral, for the medical bills, whatever financials need to be paid.
Everything that we needed was there by the time we needed to lay Helima to rest. And for me, I was like, you know what, we'll give Helima the best farewell that I can give. And we another thing, for me, as we were mourning, I just felt this thing of funeral songs is not my thing. And it was not befitting the person that we were sending off. And I said, I made a special request, please, I want us to praise in this season and not to dampen people's spirit with funeral songs. So we never did the funeral songs.
Yep.
There was a lot of praise. I was so happy. My brothers, my sisters, they were all dancing on the day of the funeral. Even though we were weeping, we were also dancing. And we were not doing this for anyone. We were just saying, God, we thank you. We bring praise back to you, even here. And I'm sure Helima was proud.
What's it like for the kids at the funeral? How was that?
So Emmanuel had already gotten to the conclusion, this is a done deal. So there was nothing that the funeral was going to change. So in fact, he didn't want to be at the funeral. He wanted to be inside the house. So I told him, you sit with me here, by force. So he was unhappy, he was angry. Lemuel is a negotiator. He kept saying, Dad, in the Bible, people died and they came back home. They were resurrected. So Mom can still come back home. And I didn't have a counter for that. And I told him, you know what? Yes, there's still a chance. So we believe. But if she doesn't rise up, we will give her the best farewell. So on the day of the funeral, when that casket went down, that's when he accepted. And, he laid his hand on the casket and he released his mom, him and I. He also took up a very strong position to stand by my side. And it was very tough for him because I realized, when in this situation, everybody comes to grieve with me, but people don't remember there is a child. So everybody spoiled to me, but the child, So in this season, I've also learned how to be there for other people when they are grieving.
Because people grieve differently. Even your two sons,
they were grieving very differently.
What about you? What did the funeral day mean for you when you saw the whole, actually, not even just seeing the casket going down, but the funeral for you?
For me, I only had two things. I'd said, if Helima doesn't wake up, doesn't resurrect today, we give her the most befitting farewell. And we will praise God. And I remembered something that, it was actually raining that day. And I remembered something she told me on our wedding day. It was also raining. And she called me that morning and she said, Pius, today is our wedding day. Even if it rains, we will enjoy our wedding. We will dance. Even if this gown will become brown, we will dance. And she truly danced. Her gown was brown. Yes. She danced. So the same thing on the day of the funeral, it was the same. We'll do what honors God, and not what we feel. So for us, we return the glory back to God. And that, for me, was like, wow, is the end of 12 years. Very wonderful 12 years of my life. The most amazing human being I had ever met. And I mean every word of it.
And I believe you with that. And just a little bit you've shared through this journey. Like you've stamped it. Can I ask, you're a planner, Pius. You're not a haphazard human being that I know. Had you and Helima had the conversation of death and what that would mean?
No, death was not on the cards. It caught us by surprise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Had you planned? And by this, I'm just talking about from a life insurance perspective.
So actually, one of my learning points was when we think about death in marriage, we tend to think, as men, tend to think we're the ones who would leave our wives.
Yes.
And not our wives leave us. So I thought I was covered because I have a group life insurance.
Yes.
But I never thought a situation where my wife would leave me. I remember you. So for me, one of my learning points is men should take life insurance for their wives.
Oh, man.
It's also a possibility they can be left. Yeah. That was a big learning point for me.
Okay. So the funeral ends. Have you even had time with baby Zoe?
No.
There's too
much happening.
There's extreme joy. You've got a baby, but there's extreme sadness.
Yeah.
So after the funeral, explain now the journey, because I've had a lot of people say this a lot of times. The true journey starts after the casket goes down.
Yeah.
Now yours is going down, but there's a new human being in the house who needed the primary caregiver for a child of that age
mother.
is the mother.
So